You're listening to TrawlCast.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to TrawlCast. This is episode 26. My name's Sean Matthews.
And I'm Seth McClellan.
And this week, ladies and gentlemen, Seth's going to tell you what we're talking about and who we're talking to.
Today, we're honored to have the band Twin Grizzly from Portland, Maine joining us on the podcast. The band is described as the product of 5 longtime friends with a penchant for rock. Their music is energetic, catchy, and undeniably danceable, applying influence from the arena rock and thrash gods of years past to their metal and hardcore history. Twin Grizzly live will leave you hot, sweaty, and in need of a smoke. I love that description. And I'd say these dudes definitely live up to that. They are one of my favorite local live bands to watch out there these days because they always bring the energy, bring the party, and they really leave it all out there on the stage. Joining us from the band, Will Cobb, the singer.
Yep.
Guitarist Chris Bowden.
Hello.
Guitarist Len Lendham.
Party on.
Bassist David Dumas.
Hey guys.
And last but not least, drummer Christopher Layton.
Pleasure to be here, guys.
Thank you guys for coming on. We really appreciate it. We're super excited about this episode because Seth and I both really enjoy what Twin Grizzly brings to the local scene, musically and just physically. You guys are great dudes, and you put on a hell of a show. And to kick things off, like, how did the band start? Seth and I were talking, and we know you guys have a pretty interesting origin story with former projects. Some of them are Werewolves on Wheels and the Motor Creeps. And Chris Layton, you came from Torn in Two. So how did you guys get together and like form the Grizz?
Yeah, it goes back a ways, man. The band started, I don't know if somebody can chime in exactly how long ago, but it's been more than a decade since this band.
2008.
2008?
Wow.
2008.
Right, yeah. So,
Yep.
Yeah, so about a minute and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. Werewolves on Wheels came to be in 2008. That was, Lenny is the only original member of Werewolves on Wheels that is still around. That was Len, Wayne Werewolf, Elliot, and John Parody. Chris joined up with Werewolves on Wheels. Elliot left. David joined the band. Actually, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Lenny, you played bass originally until David joined up?
For a long time. What happened is I actually used to be in a bunch of hardcore bands. Like I'm a hardcore kid, and I left my last hardcore band and basically told myself, I'm not going to play music anymore. I just need a break. Anybody who's ever been to a hardcore show, they're awesome, but many times there might be 12 people there in a VFW hall. So I needed a break, and the break lasted 2 months. So I was on Craigslist looking for, I got to do something, but I don't want to play hardcore again. I don't want to be, I'm too young for a cover band. I'm not ready to be in the bar scene. So John and Wayne Werewolf actually had put something up on Craigslist, looking for a bass player. And I'm like, well, I play guitar, but they don't have to know that. So I went and bought some bass gear and replied to the email. And I'm like, hey, I play bass. And literally the bass guitar that I bought was taller than I am. I'm not very tall, but that's how we started. And, and then from there, it just, snowballed into, what we are now.
Chris was in the band. Chris Bowden was in the band, and it was the same deal. Like Chris and I grew up. We went kindergarten together. We've known each other since we were babies. And he just pinged me randomly. It was like, "Hey man, I'm in this rock and roll band. Do you want to play bass?" And I did the same exact. I didn't realize Len did that. I was like, "I don't have a bass, but I've been playing guitar since I was 9." I was just like, "Yeah, sure." And I went out and got a bass and gear and just kind of learned a couple of the songs and just went to practice. And it was kind of funny, but it kind of coming from not hardcore. Well, it wasn't a few metal hardcore bands, but more of indie emo type stuff. So it's Kind of funny.
That is really funny. I'm surprised I never met you, David. I didn't go to school with Chris, but we were in a band together like 20 years ago,
Yep.
like way
Dude,
back.
I know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's so. What was that? Was that which one was that?
Without cause.
Without
cause.
cause.
Yeah.
Is that with a Z?
With his, oh yeah, of
It
course
was definitely with a Z.
I'm pretty
It was
sure
Z.
that is still like there's graffiti of that somewhere around Lewiston. Like I know that I've seen it. Somebody tagged it somewhere.
There probably is. That's funny.
I was gonna say I do like the fact that two of you guys both said like I didn't play bass, but fuck it, I went out and bought the gear and became a bass player.
That's a theme for this band, and I will tell you, like, there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of moving parts.
Like a lot of guitar players would be like, "Oh, well, it's just less strings," and I mean, oh, you're just doing the root note. Bullshit. I realized how little I actually knew about a bass guitar when I decided I'm going to tell everybody I actually know how to play one. Oh man, like, I will gladly stick to a regular guitar. Yeah,
I still don't.
yeah,
really
you're right. You don't, but
like, well, especially when we play with bands like Trawl, we see, Seth. I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
I play like Gene
I
Simmons.
wish I
I'm
could
just
do
like
that.
hammering with a pick and just like.
I see Seth play all the time, and honestly, I still don't know what the fuck he does. And we've been doing this like 2 years, 3 years now. I've seen him record, and I've sat like inches from his, hands, and I still couldn't fucking tell you how he does 90% of the Trawl songs. Like, I can make my hands look like they're going all crazy and be like, yeah, he does something like this, and then people are like, you look like you got hit by a bat. Like, what the hell?
Thanks, guys.
So, like, I don't know, a little while after they became the Motor Creeps, David and I worked together, and Wayne, the then singer, decided to quit, and David asked me if I wanted to try out, and I hadn't, like Len, I had only ever been in hardcore or metalcore bands, and it had been a while since I'd been involved. I had a kid. I was, just out of the game for a while, and went, a rock band. Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a fun challenge. Let's give it a go. Had a tryout, was offered the part, and was psyched. And then like 4 days later, Wayne decided he didn't really want to be out, and he and John were best buds. So John told me I was in fact not in the band via MySpace message.
So cringe.
That gives you an idea just how far back we go. And that's only when I got involved. MySpace was still like the thing. So band kept going. Unfortunately, at the time, John Parody, the drummer, had some health issues, couldn't go on playing. I don't know if we want to share that story, Gino's, if it's been shared a time and time again, but probably not with this audience. Somebody can do it justice better than I can.
That was a crazy night. We spent, 6-8 months, like, we're doing this record. Like, we wrote every note, literally like a recipe. We had a whole almost concept record. Like, every song led into the other. Everything, like, really, I don't know, meant something. The one thing about Wayne Werewolf was he was into hot rods and like the almost like comic book lure of horror movies, and he would mix all that together. He never drove a hot rod, never sat on a motorcycle, but if you listened to his lyrics, you would get that impression. Oh wow, this guy, what is he, a Hell's Angel? But anyway, so we spent all this time, went down to Massachusetts and recorded this album. We could not have been more stoked. It was amazing. We put together this CD release party at Gino's, pushed it, literally night of, like, place was absolutely packed. We're like waiting to go on stage, and we just like besides ourselves because it was so packed. Oh yeah, it was insane. Like, we're just kind of looking at each other like, holy shit. We get 30 seconds into our first song, our opening song, and our drummer John essentially had not a heart attack, but a heart arrhythmia. Let me step back a few months. What had happened is during the writing process for that record, we were actually practicing in my house, in my basement. And like John stops in the middle of a song and says, man, I don't feel right. Like something isn't right. And John was somebody who you never knew if he was like screwing with you or if he was being dead serious, because he's the guy that would call McDonald's at 2 a.m. in the morning to order 12 pizzas. I mean, like he was just you just didn't know. And like he got up and he's like, no, I got to go to the hospital. Went to the hospital, and long story short, it turned out that he had a serious issue with his heart. We didn't know back then how serious it was, but over the next couple months, you had to have a couple procedures, and they essentially put like almost like a heart shocker, and not quite a pacemaker, but something similar into his chest, so that when his heart would, go funky or get out of sync, it would kind of shock it back into place. Well, unfortunately, when they did this, they did it all wrong. They screwed up everything.
Oh,
And
God.
sure enough, like that night, 30 seconds in, it literally like shocked him. Like to the point where he like fell on the floor, almost like, everybody's seen ER or something, and they have those shock pads, and it, shocks you back to life. Well, that's what it did to him. And like it was insane. Like we didn't know what was going on. Like, ambulance came. My wife is an RN, and she was there that night, like runs up on stage. Like it was like absolutely insane. So after that, he really, he couldn't pick up the drumsticks, because it became an association with, if I play drums, my body is going to shock me. Absolutely insane. And, going from such a high to such a, oh my God, what the hell just happened? Like emotional roller coaster. Absolutely insane.
That's
you could hear a
crazy.
needle drop in Gino's, which was like you went from having the place be packed and everyone whatever, and it was literally a needle drop, and all you heard was like screams and cries. It was like it was traumatizing for sure.
Insane.
Like, it was
Wow.
Unbelievable. Oh my God.
I had never heard that story. Wow, that's crazy.
It's pretty gnarly. I mean, not to bring the mood too far down, but unfortunately, several years later, John's no longer with us. But I mean, it would be remiss to say, if we didn't say that, like, John's soul still carries on in the band. I didn't know John like some of these guys did. I knew John, but I knew what he brought to the band. We were still, I mean, as recently as I think we played at Port City, that last show. I think we played Devil Dinosaur, and that's
that song's gonna forever be a mainstay in the set.
He wrote that in jazz band with me in high school. He picked up an acoustic guitar in the middle of, he was playing the trumpet in jazz band, and I forget what we were playing. Probably some like it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing or something. And we were in a break, and he picks up the guitar and he's like, I got this riff, and I've been working on it, and I just want to play it. And at the time, he was playing in a punk band, Jolly John and the 33-Hour Famine, and we're sitting in the jazz band room, and he's just playing this riff, and it's just all on the low E string, and I'm like, that's a really cool riff. And fast forward to, oh God, I think it might have been 2006 at the time.
Years.
I'm just playing in John's basement. This is prior to Werewolves on Wheels. We're just hanging out, and he's playing drums, I'm playing guitar, and he's like, here's this riff from high school, play that. And we're riffing on it for a little bit, and things kind of never really fell together, and we never really formed a band. But, fast forward to 2008, 2009, when I was joining the band, and, come to find out, like, they turned the whole thing into a song and wrote a complete song called, Devil Dinosaur around it. It was, really cool to see a song that I heard him play in like 2001. Wow. And, hear it with the full band and lyrics and all that. And, just like everybody's saying, we play it to this day. Basically, it was a set closer for forever for this
That's
band.
super cool.
Yeah. When John passed, Len, Chris, and Wayne, right? Wayne joined you.
Yeah.
I played
for
Yes,
John's
yep.
funeral. They played with John's drum tracks from the record that they had recorded years prior.
From the record that he never really got to play out on. We released that record and then he never played a show again. He never.
Yeah.
What did it take him 2 or 3 years to even like come to a show to see us? And then even then he was like in the back of the room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a big shout out to Clay Neely at the time Black Coffee Sound in Massachusetts. Clay's in like Georgia now, but Clay famously has signs around his old studio that said, after 30 days, I don't have any of these recordings anymore, so don't bother asking me for it. But we contacted him after John's passing, and Clay has a back catalog of everything that he's ever recorded, apparently, because he pulled up John's tracks and he just sent them over to us, and it was literally just his isolated drum tracks, and you could hear John's voice on it, talking at the beginning and at the end of every single take, and it was really, really amazing to hear. I don't think we realized when we were recording it at the time how impactful those recordings would be later on.
He runs a newspaper now, and when I contacted, he's like, "Oh man, I don't know, like that's been a long time." He's like, "I'm really sorry about John. He really made an impact on me, but like I'm gonna have to really dig through the archives." And then like a day later, he's like, "Here's everything I got, man. Like, I'm so sorry about drama." He's like, "I love what you guys are doing. Like, that's what a fucking rock and roll." Sorry, I swore, but like, what a rock and roll send off for like one of your homies. You know what I mean? We played in a funeral home. It was his mom's idea. So I married his cousin, and so his mom, I see her all the time now. But like, it was her idea. Like, we're like, "Are you sure? Like, it's gonna be loud." And she's like, "I make it as loud as possible. Like, this is what he would want." And we're like, okay, like, so we showed up, and that's probably one of the biggest crowds we've ever played for. I mean, it just felt appropriate. And his son was dancing, and his wife, like everyone was just, it was like very much what he would have wanted. Absolutely. And just the irony of playing in like this quiet funeral. I mean, I know he would have loved that.
It was a great way to send as much love as you can to somebody.
This is Craig G from Thems That Wait, and you're listening to TrawlCast with Sean and Seth. Let's take a bite out of rock. Oh yeah.
It's funny because he even so he couldn't play drums anymore. He actually went and found our next drummer for us, and he was going to play keyboard but in a weird way, even so he couldn't play drums. Because of him, we became a band, and because of him, we continued being a band. Our next drummer after him.
Not exaggerating to say that, like, John still remains, a part of the heart and soul of the band even now, and we're only like halfway through the origin story, but we'll try to get through the rest of it pretty quick here. As Lenny brought up, we got another drummer, Mike Petrek. And did a lot of good things for us. It did not end well, and he kind of quit in pretty spectacular fashion.
Sorry,
and I guess we can leave it at that. But it began, it was definitely Chris's fault.
Usually is.
Anyway, it began what became a pretty I can't say endless drummer search because I think it's ended at this point, but dude, it was legit Spinal Tap action where we had drummers spontaneously combusting. It was just we couldn't find one that was any good.
Absolutely.
When we did, they were pillheads, they were whatever, just it was a mess. And then when it was looking to be at its most dire, Lenny, who had already moved from bass over to his natural position at rhythm guitar, picks up the drums and decides to learn how to play drums just to keep the band going.
Wow.
And did it for quite a while. And when he did that, David moved over to guitar, kind of where he maybe at that point didn't quite feel so natural, but where he originally maybe should have been. We had Chad Powell on bass. Chad was a longtime friend of myself, and all these guys have known him for a long time. We had some good years. Oh gosh, Len, what'd you play drums for? 2-3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3
It's
years.
probably 2 years.
It was almost like a rebirth as far as the music scene when we were the Motor Creeps, and then the music scene when we became Twin Grizzly was really different. Very, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were playing punk shows. We were playing with those the Motor Creeps. We were doing the Flask shows, which were a ton of fun. 9
Those are the
bands
best
at the
shows
Flask
ever.
Lounge.
Absolutely killer.
And
Yeah, that's tight.
Richie
Such a small-
handing out PBRs to everybody. Just
And-
so much fun. But yeah, when we made those changes, we brought in Chad, we moved Lenny, moved David over. That was when we changed the name to Twin Grizzly. And we just kind of said we're going in a different direction. We still up to that point, maybe had some even rockabilly roots a little bit. Just a touch. We moved away from that. And that's when, that's where the Get Nuts and Hands Off and those kind of tracks came from, that sort of energy, just a different approach. We did that for a couple of years, and dude, this band's existed, we determined, for 13 years, but we probably actually have more like 6 years of actual active time over those years, just because so many stops and starts, members in and out, pumping out kids. Chad and I quit a few years back. It had just kind of reached dude, what are we doing kind of point. We quit for a while, and it was a couple months. I just couldn't stay away. I just missed it, and started reaching out to them. And we decided we were going to move everybody back to where they kind of belong. We were going to move Len back to the guitar. We were going to put David on bass, and we were going to make a real effort to find a new drummer. And actually, the last show that we played with Chad and I in the band before we walked away was at the Cage with Torn in Two, and we met a drummer named Chris Layton that night. Maybe I didn't meet him that night, but really, we fell in love that night. It was like, dude, this guy.
Oh, for sure.
Dude,
just tearing things apart.
I remember the first show I saw him, and I literally ran on stage when the set finished, and I was like, "You're in our band. You're gonna be in our band." And he was like, "What? Like, who are you?" I was like, "You're in our band. What are you doing Friday? You're in our band." Just I'm gonna subconsciously just tell him you're already in our band.
Can't say no.
No, shucks, guys.
Yeah, dude. Not to take anything away from Len. He's the reason the band kept going for another 2-3 years. But to see a drummer like that, and it worked out. I had walked away, and as we started to kind of stir things up again, heard that Chris had left Torn in Two, and reached out to him. Was like, "Hey, just putting some feelers out there. Don't know if you're interested. We're trying to get things rolling again." I remember David and I went to Chris's house to just talk things over and let him know what we're looking to do. And, the rest is history, man. We could not have found a better fit, again, not to take anything away from you, Len, but to go to a guy like Chris.
Oh yeah, no, I can't play drums.
He's just, dude, such a smooth, heavy hitter, creative. It was just, I think it was the first time we'd had a drummer that he didn't just play drums. He was part of the writing process. It wasn't just okay, tell me the riff and I'm just going to give you a beat. It was, he's contributing in every way, shape, and form, and just the level of creativity. And the real special thing about Chris is that he pushes the shit out of the rest of us. This dude is unbelievably driven and a hard worker, and I like to think he brings the best out in all of us, and he's an animal behind the kit, man. He's a lot of fun to be in a band with.
Well, thanks, guys.
Well, we went from kind of like a Phil Rudd style drummer to like Dave Lombardo. I mean, you know, it very, as far as speaking from a guitarist point, you know, our other drummer, Mike, a very nice guy. You know, I don't have anything bad to say about him, never would. But the stylistic the stylistic of play is just dramatically different. And as a guitar player, especially, you know, when I'm trying to write a riff or something like that, I love to be able to sit back and let everybody else show their talents, and to have a drummer that can literally be on a different planet while the rest of us are doing our own thing, and then somehow we all come back to that, you know, that jumping off point, all on key, all in sync. It's just it was so refreshing. From honestly the first time we played with him, it was like, wow, I'm sure one of us said it, where the hell have you been? Like,
yeah,
we could have saved a whole lot of time, you know. If
it's very obvious when you hear the songs that we write now that it's just like the band. I feel like I said this when we first met him, but like he was a shot in the arm to this band. And you know, Will had said it, like it all pushed us. Like this was like, it took us from a state of maintaining, which, you know, Len did really well. We all kind of like did things we didn't really, you know, weren't stoked on, but like did to maintain the band going forward. And then all of a sudden we met Chris and got this shot in the arm. And it was like, everyone just wanted to write and play again. And it was just like, the whole thing just got reinvigorated. And I don't want to be remiss in saying, like, we have like a group chat going, and like this, it's not just how someone plays, like how we play together. Like that's this iteration is just the best iteration the band has ever been. Like we all know each other's strengths, and just we work so well together. But I also, like, on a personal level, like we're all really tight. Like these are my best friends. Like I talk to these guys every day, and we all, like, we know each other's families. We know like what's going on in each other's lives. Like it's as much as a support group as it is a band. And Chris just fit right into that role. He's just a really good, I mean, he's one of those dudes that can do anything. So it's like, he's just, it just brought so much to the table, and it fit in perfectly with all of us. And it was just like, that's why, you know, we're just like, this is it. Like we locked this in. Like this is how we want to play. You know what I mean? This is how we want to play now. Like this just works.
Well, and I wanted to say too that it really was kind of like it was meant to be, because, you know, like everything that I was going through in my life at the time, not just musically, like I had hit some very frustrating points in my professional career, which actually were the reasons why I left Torn in Two. And it was so hard to let that music thing go for me, because I had stopped playing around the mid 2000s, and I didn't play for 10 or 15 years or something like that. And Cap and Ben LeClaire like brought me out of retirement and I played with Torn in Two, and I had an absolute blast. So, but then when I had to shut that down, I was like, oh, this is just totally killing me, you know, to have to let this go again. But I got everything kind of sorted out work-wise and planning for the future for my family and everything. And it was like, as soon as I set all those pieces into place, that's when I get a call from Will. Hey, you know, I heard you're, you know, not playing with Torn in Two. We should talk. And it was like, it was fate, you know. It was just like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like, God has heard my call. Like, I need to play music. And literally the message comes through the next day. It was perfect. And like David was just saying, like, you know, there's the music, the writing, the creativity, all of that in place, but also we're all cut from that same kind of cloth. We're all married. We all have great wives. We have children, you know, we all have our, you know, professional careers. There's so many similarities that it was just like puzzle pieces, just like popping all together, and it was a perfect fit. So to say that I was stoked to get the offer, what is, you know, an understatement, but the way that it's turned out over the last few years, it's like a godsend. And you guys all know my wife Shannon. Like, she absolutely loves everybody in the band and their families, and it's just like we just feel so blessed that we're in the Grizzly Den together, So
now you guys know why whenever we play or we see us, we're just like got that shit-eating grin. We're just stoked on everything.
That's awesome. I can definitely tell, your energy on stage, just the fun that I can visibly see that you guys are having, and then you can really tell that like this is the lineup, and you guys are, I think it's like, together you guys are like better than the sum of all the parts. Like it all works super well, and you can tell you guys are really kindred spirits. So I think it's awesome. It's awesome to watch.
Glad to hear that comes across.
It's very noticeable when you guys are on
I
stage.
hate these guys so much.
Seeing you guys on stage, you can see that you're just a band of brothers that are doing something together that you love, and it's noticeable. It comes through musically and visually. Like there's also an energy that you guys put out when you're on the stage that, like, I feel like watching you guys play, I have fun because you guys are clearly having fun and you know what the hell you're doing.
That's, dude. I mean, that is literally what we strive for. Every time we write a song, like that's the goal. And it's so great when we hear people say that, because it's like, I didn't put that in your mouth or your head. Like that's what we were trying to go for.
Yeah, dude, there's no better, you play a show, you guys know, you finish your set and people come up, say, hey, nice set, bro, nice job. And that's all good. I appreciate that. But when somebody comes up to me and said, dude, that was so much fun. Like that is the highest praise that I can ask for, because what the hell else is the point? If you're coming out, you come out to the bar to like stare at your shoes and, just kind of whatever, drink a warm PBR, you came because you wanted to have fun. And if I can do that for you, then man, that's what we're all about. That's what we've been about since word one.
We've said from the very beginning, like whether there's 6 people in the audience or 600 people in the audience, they're going to get the same show every single time because we all have the same kind of passion going into it. And that's what they deserve. It doesn't matter what the audience is giving you for feedback. It's fun when the audience is giving you feedback and they're enjoying it. But if there's 3 or 4 people in the audience, they're going to get the same Twin Grizzly show as if there's, 300 or 400 people sitting there.
Hey, this is Kevin from Drivetrain, and you are in the deep end of the pool with TrawlCast.
Gonna pull my bottle up, put it down. Gonna fill my liquor cup until I drown. I'm gonna tip my bottle up to the sky. Gonna drink my liquor up until I die.
So one thing, like Sean and I love to talk about, our influences and the bands that we love on the podcast. So like one question that I like to ask bands when they come on are, what are 2 or 3 of each of your kind of individual influences that you guys feel like inspire or inform your approach to writing a Twin Grizzly song? Like when you think about writing your parts, like what kind of influences are you drawing from?
That sounds like a Chris Layton.
I was gonna say I'll start it off as the bottom, the rhythm section guy, and I'm the elder statesman in the band too. So like being in my my mid 40s, like the music that I first started listening to was all of your classic rock, and like my personal drumming heroes when I was younger were Alex Van Halen, obviously John Bonham. A few other guys that no one's ever heard of. Tommy Eldridge, he played with Ozzy, he played with Black Oak, Arkansas. But that's my influences that I like to think that come out naturally would be more of that that kind of party rock, like that Van Halen sound with the shuffle of a Led Zeppelin. But once this band came out when I first started high school named Tool. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them before, but they have a really good drummer. and Danny Carey obviously influenced, millions of us drummers out there. So yeah, I would say I'm a Zeppelin, Van Halen, Tool influenced drummer, and I think if you listen to my drum parts, I'm one of those drummers that I don't like to overplay. Like, I like to groove, I like to throw in the tasty chops, but it's not just all blazing drum fills, you know what I mean?
Like, that's something that we have to kind of like slap him on the hand for sometimes, because he's like, oh, I don't want to do too much. And we're like, no, do everything, do all that you are capable of doing right now, because we need it. Dude.
It's funny because the stuff that we've been writing during COVID, like I just naturally fall back into like the groove guy, like the drummer groove guy, and these guys, they write these killer licks, and I'll slap this awesome groove, and it's just stuff that makes you want to wiggle and move and dance, and then they're like, all right, right here, drum solo, and I'm like, what? Like, I don't know if I can do that, but like, we always figure out some kind of tasty way to throw in an awesome drum break, and I have to tip my hat to these guys too for giving me, like, they give me all the rope that I ever asked for, and they actually want me to take more rope. So as a drummer, that is, that's kind of rare and very much appreciated.
To that point, I think the great video from our show at Port City.
Drumline, yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the song, I mean, it was something that, Twin Grizzly had toyed with and written all the parts for kind of, prior to me joining the band, and we reworked the song into something that just super grooved, and it just had this break in it that naturally felt like, okay, this has to be, you're coming into this break, it drops way down, and it just slowly builds and builds and builds to this, killer guitar solo. And I was like, well, what if we make this kind of a drum break? And they're like, yeah, that's what we need. And so Will and I have always done this thing where he has like some rototoms or whatever kind of percussion stuff that I give to him, and we just wail away on it, and the crowd loves it, and it just gets everybody pumped, and it brings me back to my my drumline days, marching percussion and stuff like that. So we were getting ready to play this Port City show, and I mean, the lineup was like, okay, we got Thems That Wait, we got Drivetrain, Twin Grizzly. I'm like, I'm gonna ask those guys to join our drumline with Will, myself, those guys. And then I was just having a conversation, messaging back and forth with the drummer of As Friends, Amber, and I was like, hey, are you interested in doing this? And at first she was like, geez, I don't know. And then I sent her like the rough track of it and explained to her what I wanted to do, and she's like, oh, hell yeah, I'm totally into this.
That's awesome.
And yeah, dude. And it's so, I mean, we all messaged back and forth, and came up with a basic plan, but basically just turned it into like a percussion ensemble pit for that 2 minutes of that song, and it was magical. It came together so much. I mean, the energy that was rolling off of that stage, just like, you could see it in people's faces. They were just like, oh my God. And as a drummer and a long, lifelong percussionist, to see that was just like, filled my heart.
I feel like collectively as a band, that's like probably all of our like favorite moment as a musician, as a band, like, and I'm so glad that we hired, that video crew to be there, to capture that, because like, I still look back and I'm like, that's where I peaked so far as a musician, like that moment right there. It was just like,
yeah, and I think we're all in that same boat.
It was unbelievable. Like I remember, I very distinctly remember in the moment being that, like, telling myself like, dude, soak this in, like this is it right here, like this is why you've been playing since you were 9 years old, to have this moment right here. Like, it gives me goosebumps to talk about it. It gave me goosebumps while I was experiencing it. And now that we have it on video, I'm like so stoked. I show my daughter and she's like, wow, look at that. Like, yes, like that. I mean, I don't know. It was awesome. And I just love that Chris orchestrated the whole thing. And like, but it did happen pretty organically too. Like it's pretty awesome. So for me, I was like, it was funny. I thought about this question, and it was like, at first I just was like, thought of it as just like bands or musicians that like in general have influenced me. But then I reread it, and it was like, no, the way you worded it is like, you know, when we're writing. So I had to really think about, okay, when we're in writing mode, like when you're making that decision of like, okay, you've got, you know, this part in the song, like what would X band do? Like what would this band do in this situation when you have, so for me, like, you know, originally I was thinking of all the bands that I was going to say. It was like, you know, the bands that have gotten me to where I am. It's like Converge, Citizen, and then I had to shout out Murcielago because it's just, they're my favorite, you know, local band. But I think when it comes to writing, I'm more of like, you know, I think Will, myself, and even Lenny, we come from like a really heavy background. And for me, like, it's like Every Time I Die, Cruel Hand, and then again, I'm going to say Murcielago. Like those that, like, I feel like it's less of musicians and more of like bands, and like songwriting is like my approach, because, you know, I've been a guitarist in this band. I've been a bassist. I filled in on drums when we played on a boat, and then Gino's show, like, you know, so for me, like, we all kind of think of,
That's another story for another day.
oh God. Yeah. That was fun.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, that's right. You got really sick. I forgot about that. Chris gets really sick. Chris does not have sea legs. And then we forced him to play a show, and then he just like hurled off the side of the boat. That was, sorry, buddy. No, but so from like I think of it like from like a songwriting perspective. I wouldn't say that like, well, I could name like all the musicians in my favorite bands. I don't ever like point to like one and be like, yes, I want to play like that, because I feel like I'm listening to everything all the time, the guitar, the drums, the bass, and actually I think TJ said something on one of the last shows. He said if the breakdown was an area code, I would move to it, and he said that, and I like jumped out of my chair. I was like, yes, dude, someone gets me. So the funny thing, it's like, we're writing this stuff, and I always ask, like, okay, can we do this? I'll look at Chris and be like, can you play this part like halftime? Just like make it really heavy. And like, he's like, yeah, cool. Well, the last time I asked that, he's like, dude, the last 3 songs end in a breakdown. Like, we got to do something else. Like, but you got to mix it up. And I was like, oh shit, you're right. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I just love that halftime breakdown chuggy. Like, that's where I'm always trying to lead the band, I guess, if you will, for whatever role I have in that. I mean, we all are collectively, you know, writing these songs together, but whenever, you know, it's my input, that's kind of where I'm going. So just the fast, heavy, chuggy, you know, but still have those like teases of melody, you know, with Keith's vocals, or even, you know, with what Link's doing now with Cruel Hand. Like, they're doing a lot more melodic stuff. I just, you know, I love it. So that you know, pairing those two. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Cool. Who's next?
I guess it's my turn. For me, piggybacking on Dave, you know, musically, you know, I played 5 different instruments, and, you know, like, I have a very diverse background musically. What made me pick up a guitar was honestly 2 people. It was Kurt Hammett and Jimmy Page. Really for 2 reasons. Kurt Hammett, it'll sound silly, but I watched, it was on VHS, the first Metallica VHS tape that they put out for Kill 'Em All. It was like, you know,
Dude,
they had a bunch of VHS recorded tapes, and like, I, as a 12-year-old, I'm watching this, and in real life, Kurt Hammett is about as tall as I am. He's like this, like, long-haired, short guy who just grabbed a guitar and just did these crazy things with it. And literally from that second on, I decided I was growing my hair long, and I was going to play guitar. Like, that was it. because wow, look at this guy. I as a as such a little skinny kid, like I looked at him and was like, yes, like I'm gonna be like him. And then Nirvana, hit, and it was like, wow, if that guy can play power chords and literally knock Michael Jackson off the charts, I can do this. Like, I can absolutely do this. As far as when it comes to when we're writing songs as a band and things like that, the biggest influence on me personally is the Young Brothers from AC/DC. I, as a rhythm guitarist, always put myself in the shoes of like Malcolm. Um, Malcolm was always the guy that was just off in the corner with his one pickup guitar, just locking it in. He was the master lock of the band when Angus could, throw his kid shorts on and run around the stage and be the show and be the technical aspect of the show. Malcolm, if you listen to, I mean, every song they ever wrote, Malcolm is there, just locked in. And I, even when I was a kid, and playing in all these different bands, like there were so many people focused on, well, I have to know all the scales and, I've got to play like, I've got to be this guitar, Eddie Van Halen, amazing person. And so many people would forget about the basics. And so for me, like, very similar to like the way that a bass player, kind of locks in, like that's always been really important to me as far as being like almost like a supporting role. I try to come up with good riffs and, contribute my part, but it's always been really important to me to not necessarily be the show, but to be the guy that helps the show stay on pace. When we're practicing, I tend to be the guy, like if we're talking in every band, bull craps, I'm the guy like, okay, so what are we playing next? Because I'm just in that mindset of keeping everything rolling and keeping everything tight so that everybody else can just, do their thing and really show off their talents.
I think Wayne had, like, way back in the day, he used to say, I think he might have been talking about John, but like, I think it's like a common theme for everybody in this band so far is like everyone plays parts that serve the song well. No one's like trying to show up or do anything.
Exactly.
Right. Chris has obviously guitar solos, but like they serve the song. Like, and especially now with the way we write, with the way that they're woven in and stuff, like it's not just like cookie cutter, like do this. It's like, okay, well, if we build this up here, like then we can kind of have this part. And yeah, I think it's definitely, you do a great job of doing that.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I gotta say real quick, like everyone contributes to the writing. Chris Bowden has written some songs, Dave has written some songs, Len has written some songs, but when we need to like zip something up or bridge apart to, figure out a way to do it, every single eyeball in the room is looking over at Lenny like, okay, Lenny, work your magic, man. How do we do this? And he comes through every single time. I play
an A chord.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you play it just differently enough where no, dude, you it's absolutely true.
Yeah, the what you were saying, Dave, about serving the song, that's exactly what I was going into when I'm writing a song with you guys. I could talk about my influences and how I started playing guitar and how to bring it back to kind of what Leighton said, Adam Jones from Tool was one of those big influences at the beginning. There's, the sound of his guitar and the way that he played. A lot of people weren't doing it that way at the time. And that was definitely one of my biggest reasons for picking up a guitar. But, and playing through all the punk songs and stuff, growing through the 90s and, Green Day and all that great stuff when we were learning how to play guitar. But, the stuff that serves me the best when we're writing is to look at those other songwriters. And, I'll always say this and Will probably chuckle. But when I look back at like some of my favorite albums, like Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair, that's some of the best songwriting. Like
that's respect.
That's literally like that's a constant in my life. But like that's that kind of songwriting process that those guys had, and people like Tom Petty, where it didn't necessarily need to showboat to make the song a great song. You don't have to play, tapping solos, and you don't have to go crazy, and you don't have to be playing with your whammy bar the entire song. You got to do what serves the song. And what Chris Layton was saying about that drum line, to bring up Tears for Fears again, that's that part of that song where it gets all airy, and there's some delayed guitars, and it's really, really kind of open, and there's that drum beat in the background. When we were writing that with Layton in the band, when we were reimagining that part, all I could hear was that split track on that CD, Songs from the Big Chair, the Head Over Heels / Broken song, where they end it with the live version of Broken, and it's just kind of like a breakdown at the end, and there's all those drums and all just the loud keyboards, and everything is just vibing together. Like that's what I channel, is that kind of a feeling. But you always got to play with a purpose for the song, and I'm not saying I'm definitely not the best guitarist out there, so there's a lot of times where I'm glad that I don't have to showboat. So I'm glad that we can focus on what makes the song good and not necessarily what looks flashy.
So the struggle I have is that I've never considered myself a musician. I grew up like David, like Len, in hardcore metalcore bands. I can't play an instrument. I always just screamed, shouted, and that was my delivery. And I never really looked at like any one person. I knew what I was capable of doing, and never really tried to emulate anybody. I guess maybe until I joined this band, and it was like, all I know how to do, I'm joining this rock band, all I can think of to do is try to come as close to what Wayne is doing as possible, so it doesn't sound like this like stark difference and sound really weird on the songs that we have already. It's since evolved quite a bit, and some of my I guess earlier technique has come back as we get a little heavier and heavier as the years go by, which is kind of a funny, it's kind of backwards. You'd think as you get a little older, you get a little mellower in your songwriting, but we seem to get heavier. So when I started thinking of influences, not really being able to point to a particular artist out there for their musical ability, I thought more about like what I bring to the table, knowing that I'm not really a musician. I consider myself a performer first and foremost. So I was thinking about where that comes from, and that does factor into the songwriting process of like, how can we deliver this in the most entertaining way possible? And so I just thought back to like the best performances I've seen that I've tried to kind of emulate. And when we write songs, like how can I best deliver that sort of energy automatically? And at least a couple of the guys will laugh at me, but I always go back to Andrew WK because it was one of the greatest live shows I've ever seen. And if you've ever seen him, you know what I'm talking about. It's just this insanely high energy, an hour and a half of no breaks, just sweat and dancing and inviting the entire crowd up on stage and getting on people's shoulders and putting other people on his shoulders and handing microphones over to everybody. And I mean, the first time I saw him, I never heard of him. Well, I shouldn't say never heard of him. Never really heard him. He closed out Skate Fest 2002, and it was like midnight when he went on. I was wiped out. But he comes on, and within the first 30 seconds of his set, I had the biggest shit-eating grin on my face. I was just geeking out so hard because it was just so much fun. And that was at a time when I was kind of like, we'll say kind of jaded from the hardcore metal scene. I was still very much in that scene, but everything was kind of blurring together. Everything was very much the same. So to see this attitude of like, it's not about being tough, it's not about being cool, it's just about coming out here and partying with all my, like 3,000 of my best friends. Dude ran around at the end of his set and ran into my buddy and I, grabbed both of us, gave us the biggest bear hug, and just screamed how much he loved us in our ears, and then ran off again. It just like the rest of the night, I had to drive home from Worcester that night up to Farmington where I was going to school. You know, it was not a short drive, but I was wide awake the whole night, just like still geeking out on that. So that feeling is, I guess, one of the biggest influences for me, is trying to recreate that whenever we're live, whenever we're writing a song. It's that's what I want to bring to the table. And just on another note, David and I were talking about this earlier, like what we know as music, as performance, we learned from the hardcore scene, the metalcore scene. Like we've seen bands like Every Time I Die, like Bane, just giving everything they have. And, you know, you are probably going to flub notes and forget lyrics, but nobody cares, because you are creating an environment that is just the energy is palpable, and you can't get that feeling anywhere else. So those, I guess, in a roundabout way, those two things inform my songwriting. You know, these guys, I'm not telling you anything that these guys don't already know, that I struggle to write lyrics because, man, I'm not angry about anything. I'm not like, I don't have anything political to say. You know, I've written a bunch of songs about, you know, the sexy ladies and the, you know, partying all night and all that. And those are fun, but, you know, sometimes it's just like, man, I just want to do something different. But, yeah, so I try to, like I said, bring in those kind of influences. The party thing always works. Trying to move away. We did move away from that a little bit with the last EP, but so I guess that's the long way of saying my influences are those that bring the energy and bring the party and make everybody in the room feel like they're a part of it.
Hey, what's up? This is John from Alliance. You're listening to Seth and Sean on TrawlCast.
About the new EP you guys put out last June, called Together. Why don't you guys tell us a little about the concept behind it, the title, and what that EP means to you guys?
So Together, I mean, we've touched on it a lot tonight. The concept of Together, the artwork. Picture that crayon box on the album cover, the black crayon box, and a whole bunch of different colored crayons, and it's basically 212. You know, we're in this shitty black box, and there's 40 different people in there, but we're all in there at the same time, and we're all like cohesive, and we're all there for the same reason. And I don't care who you are, where you came from, why you're there. We're all in it together. We're all going to party together for these 45 minutes that we have on stage. We're going to make sure that you're having a good time and you're part of it. It's not just, hey, listen to our songs and watch us. Like, I want you to be a part of it. It's not just us as a band together. It's us, and every single person in the room is together with us. I wouldn't necessarily say that the album it wasn't like a concept album by any stretch. We haven't, we don't write frequently enough to do that kind of thing. But there are some songs that kind of form the whole vibe. I mean, you got All We Got on there, the second track that's Chris alluded to earlier. That song is just about like I was talking about. We've all seen those bands that they're there just basically having a practice in front of everybody, and you know, respect that they're out there and they're trying. But man, when we're up there, I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I am gonna, whether there's half a dozen people in the room or it's just Alan at the bar, or we're at Port City and there's 250 people in there, we're gonna give it all we got. And we're just like I really tried on that track at the end of it, like vocally just pushing, literally like physically giving all I've got on that track. And I think that comes across when we perform live, and not just that track, but that's what we really kind of encapsulates what we're all about. Like, if we're going to do this, we might as well do it right, and we might as well give everything we have to it. Otherwise, what's the point? Touching on pride, you guys in the questions that you sent us, you asked specifically about pride, and I guess that's the kind of maybe the closest one that ties into the together vibe. Pride it's a party song, really, at its core. It's pretty simple. That's kind of what I've learned, is that I really don't have to write too many lyrics. I've gotten into the habit of just kind of repeating the verse. Like, you're really supposed to repeat the chorus throughout, but like, no, the verse worked the first time through. So I think I'm just going to say the same things the second time through, but maybe I'll change like one line. So it feels a little different. But no, like I said, Pride's pretty simplistic party song at its core. But it also is that a little bit of that all we got kind of vibe of like, we're giving you everything we have, but I expect it in return. I want it in return. I want you to scream at me. I want you yelling in my face when I stuff the mic in like down your throat. I want every bit of energy that you've got to give back to me. Lyrically, at the end of the song, you've got the left, left, right, right, sing loud, sing proud. So it's not meant to be political by any stretch. It really is just like, it's like the, jock jam style, like everybody, all the fellas in the place to be, let me hear you now. And, all the honeys that don't need no man, like, that kind of like call and response sort of thing is what we were going for, or what I was going for with that was. I was imagining when we're on stage, I literally want to be running back and forth, left to right on the stage, and just jamming the mic out there and asking them to scream back at me. We got to have that experience at Port City, and people really ate it up. Actually, the Hollow Bass show that we played, there's some like really great photos of that song, and I can tell it's that song because we got such a huge response out of it. People playing those sides of the crowd against one another and trying to get them to one up one another, and that was the whole point when writing those lyrics. It does kind of, I guess, if you wanted to dig into it, and I guess that's one of the nice things about music is people can interpret how they want. Yeah, I guess you could take something political out of it, but certainly not anywhere near my intention. It's really just, we're all here together, and let's feel good about ourselves. Let's feel good about being together, and let's just go as hard as we can, man.
So I'm going to have to learn that, not write as many lyrics, because I tend to overwrite stuff, and then I have these massive, and I'm like, oh, why the fuck did I do that? Oh, God. Then I have to memorize like 5,000 words in a 2.5-minute long song, and I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm officially a dumbass.
I was going to say, Carcharodon has a lot of lyrics. That one has a lot.
Yeah. Well, see, Ghost Pepper doesn't necessarily have too many lyrics. It's just the right amount, but Carcharodon was like, you're a dumbass. You wrote, half a War and Peace for this 3-minute song. Shit.
And that Hollow Bass show was awesome. You guys, that was like one of my favorite sets that you guys played, and I think I told you guys afterwards, but I was like, holy shit, like the energy, it felt like a special set. Like you guys were just on all cylinders, so that was killer.
You want to know a fun fact about that? Thank you, by the way, but the fun fact, we did not plan to be coordinated with
with Signal.
Yeah, no.
I
Signal,
picked
yeah.
up on that. Yeah, that was crazy. Like you guys just
That was complete kismet. Like that was just like we showed
Yeah,
up. We're like, this is what we're doing. They're like, wait, you're doing that? We are too. And it was like, all right, well, we got to make it look like we planned it. And so that's what we did.
We'd never done a Howler Bash before. None of us. I don't think any of us had ever been to one before. But everything we were told was Kupago is hard at this. So you better do it. You better do it right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the hardest part for me was finding a mask that I could sing in, and I bought, actually, I haven't even told Seth this, but I bought like 5 or 6 masks and had like a workshop in my living room of cutting the mouth and like the lower jaw off of all these masks to try to make something to sing in. And it ended up being like a nylon stocking with like a Skeletor looking skull on it, that because it was easy to breathe through and sing in. But I have like my youngest son has one of the masks, and it's like a pumpkin, and I cut the lower jaw off, and I tried singing in it for like 10 minutes, and it actually like sliced my mouth open because it was so tight. So I started to have like Joker scars from the Dark Knight on my face, and I was like, yeah, we're not going to wear that one. Bad idea.
Oh my God. I think, one of the toughest things too about our Together EP is, we were riding that high from, playing some killer shows at the end, 2019 with Halabash, and then, playing that Port City show in January 2020. And we had set, everything for the EP release to be in March. And then, obviously what happened in March. So we said, okay, well, let's push it back. Well, actually, I should say before that, we had planned on doing basically an EP release show at 212 that we had set up for the beginning of May. And it was a killer lineup. It was going to be a killer show. But, as things started to, further develop with the COVID situation, we were like, geez, maybe we should push this back. And then that's why we decided to release it in June, because no one really knew what was going on. And we were still, everybody across the whole globe, was just grasping at that desire to want to still perform and to share our music. And like I said, we were riding this huge wave, and we went to everything recorded, and we got our CDs in the mail, and we're putting together our merch and planning our shows. And it's like, do we release this? Do we hold it? Like we're torn. What do we do? And I know that there's just so many bands, Them's That Wait comes to mind, because they were in that same boat. Mercy Lago, same thing. They had their stuff all done for the Port City show, and they decided to hold off on releasing it, and they didn't end up releasing it until this past fall. But we're in like completely unprecedented times, and anything that you can do to like hold on and savor those memories and that feeling, the emotions that it gives you, to do what we do, this podcast, watching concerts, online or whatever, checking out new music and being super stoked for new releases coming out.
Yeah.
I.e. the new Trawl is it's gonna blow all the records just out of the water for local releases, because everyone is just starving for new and exciting stuff. So, we definitely all need to make sure we keep our head held high and remember that, how important it is to everyone that we do, our performances, that we share our art with everyone. And, and we're not far off from, if everything goes according to the plan, we could have some live music this summer. We'll see, knock on wood.
That'd be amazing.
And just think about that first show back, when we can like hug our friends and stuff, and how hard hopefully everybody's singing back to us. And I might die just from exhaustion. Um,
You know-
just pushing too hard. But dude, I just dreaming about that day, being able to see everybody again. Like that's what I keep telling my wife is like, I'm going to go to a bar and I'm just going to hug everybody. I don't care who they are. I just need to see people.
What's up, my friends? This is Vinny from Diana Drive, and you are listening to TrawlCast.
Everything is gone in your hometown. You're on now. It's a ghost town. Everything is gone in your hometown. You're alone now. It's a ghost town.
This isn't to necessarily stir things up or cause any shit or, prove that you're a true metalhead or hard rock guy, or just a hot take. Who do you think is one of the most overrated bands or performers that is out there today?
Well, I'm going to speak up, and I'm probably going to disappoint you. I'm not going to give much of a hot take. I'm going to give you the diplomatic answer. That I don't think there's any such thing as an overrated act. I think there's acts that I don't like. I think there's acts that I don't understand. But if they're overrated at all, like that means they're probably rated by somebody, and it doesn't have to make sense to me to matter. Like you know what? Creed was overrated. I think that's a safe answer, right? I can say that.
Oh man,
That's pretty middle of the road. Yeah, you're good there, I think.
Honestly, your question, I would almost reverse it in a way. One thing the pandemic has shown is the real musicians, as opposed to the people who have 10 writers and 12 producers and so forth. There are so many, I guess you could big name musicians that have been able to sit in their living room, pick up an acoustic guitar, throw up an iPhone, and continue entertaining and being musicians. And if anything, I personally feel the last year of this pandemic has shown us how many musicians are actually underrated, and how many musicians you really didn't realize, oh wow, that guy is really good, or wow, she's not just a studio musician. Hip hop right now is exploding with all of these like underground, just musicians that you just would have never known about. But where we can't go out and can't go to bars and get half drunk. Everybody is searching for something new, some new music, and you're finding so many new areas that are, oh wow, I would have never listened to this guy, but hey, let me check it out. It's amazing how, like I said, the question is almost flipped. The wheat is being taken away from the chaff, or however you say that. The real musicians are filtering to the top because of their natural talent and the want and the need for something new.
I just wanted to say, like, we kind of talked about this question as a band, and we all, I think what Will and Len said, is kind of like more or less collectively where we're at. I think it brought up an idea for me where it was like, and it's kind of riffing off of the pandemic thing. It's like, it's all about timing. Like for the longest time, I thought that Jack White and the White Stripes were overrated. And I feel like a complete piece of crap saying that right now, but I wasn't accepting them. I just was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't get it. It's like, what is he really doing? And then I saw the documentary, It Might Get Loud, and my brain melted. And I was like, this guy is a god. Like, this is the best guitarist in the world, or musician, I should say. And then I saw him live at Fenway. I had a friend be like, hey, I know you're not really like whatever. And then I was like, oh my God, I've been wrong this whole time. Like, I was just like, whatever, like, between Meg's like drumming, and then I just didn't get it, but I just wasn't in a right mindset to receive or like understand like what they were doing. So like for the longest time, I was like, yeah, that shit's overrated. Like I didn't get it. And then all of a sudden now, I can't say enough good things about Jack White and the band, the White Stripes, anything he's done. I mean, that guy, that's going to be what we talk about, you know, in 20, 30, 40, 50, plus years. Like what he's doing is so revolutionary and just completely changing music as we know it. So it's just funny that I used to think that he was overrated because I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And, just like, I still don't really know what the big deal about the Stones is. And I know probably people are going to murder me for saying that, but like, and I know their contribution to rock and roll, but I just haven't given them the time of day. I haven't been in a place where I'm like, yeah, okay. So to me, it's like, I know what they do and stuff, but it's just not for me. It's not my bag. And I know that people that's where rock and roll came from and whatever. I'm more of like a Zeppelin guy, but Sabbath, but I don't know. It's all about timing is all basically what I was coming at with. It's like, but Creed and Nickelback are still terrible. So.
Nickelback too, guys? You're killing me. Oh, dude, everybody wants to be a rock star. Come on. Like,
dude, Nickelback just did like an ad for Google where they like parodied themselves for that photo.
That's why you got to use
the photograph one. That photograph parody is unbelievably amazing. It's great. It's fantastic. Every time it comes on when I'm on like YouTube, I let it play because it's fucking great.
I'm getting them ad dollars. No, but I didn't know what it was, and then I was like, oh my god, like this is like, it's pretty good.
I honestly thought they were just going to start playing the song, and that was it. Like that was the ad, was you got to listen to a Nickelback song, and I was like,
it's I mean, we can kid about a band like that, but in a way you have to respect what a band like that is doing. They know that they're writing butt rock songs, but they're buying the neighborhood because they found a recipe, they found a formula, and there was a news story on Blabbermouth, Blabbermouth, a few months ago where they were interviewing those guys, and they're like, yeah, we'd actually love to do like a Metallica cover record because that's the music that we actually like, but we're Nickelback and we're not allowed to do that. So, you have to respect a band that can figure it out and figure out the formula that works for them. And, they play a show and the mom jeans come out. I mean, just thousands and thousands of them come, and as much as I don't get it, like David was talking about Jack White, like I don't get it. It's not my thing, but I have to, as a musician and as a kid that, said, I'm going to play a big stage someday. You have to respect it. You just do. It's, the commitment that you have to put in to get to that level, you have to respect it.
It's very
you have
true.
to consider that most people out there, they don't want to work for their music.
Right.
Like the guys on this call would tend to, dig a little deeper perhaps, but most people, it's what's in front of them is, hey, if it bobs my head, then that's what I want. That's all I'm after.
Nickelback did do that gent song a little bit ago.
What?
They had like a gent song. They tried to write a gent.
Oh my
song.
god, I gotta go listen to this.
I
don't know.
It's not terrible.
I heard that.
I would kick it out of bed for eating crackers, but
I just realized too, you guys said like this is a hot take, and here we are just like going on and talking about it.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes a hot take's a little too cool.
I'm awful at hot takes because like I don't like being negative, so
exactly.
Well, I was gonna say like as far as new music, because of everything that has been said, like, and the fact that I'm so much more open-minded now, I've matured as a musician and a listener of music. I really don't have any complaints. There are things that, yes, I don't understand, but when I was, say, like, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, there were bands that I just could not freaking stand. I hated, like, Counting Crows and the Wallflowers and REM. Like, so that, I know, and that's the thing. Like,
what is
that
the frequency, Leighton? Come on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is that genre of music that those three bands, they're in that genre, that sect of rock and roll.
It's college sect rock.
I call those like school bus songs because that was everything that was on 92 Moose when I was in school, like driving the school bus, riding school bus.
That's the thing. Like, I was graduated high school, so like that would have been what was on the job site if the radio station was on that radio station, or like I worked part-time in a kitchen as a prep cook, and that's what would have been on. And I would songs would come on, and like I would just be like, this has to change right now, or I'm going to huck this chef knife at the radio and it just freak out, you know, like, but now I can appreciate an REM. I still won't listen to them or the Counting Crows or any other college sect rock because it just doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah, but that was a weird period for music. I mean, we went from hair bands to grunge. I mean, Soundgarden to this like Third Eye Blind and like,
well, that's the thing. Like
20 and
right,
music didn't know where it was going.
Right, because on the other end of the spectrum, that was when nu metal was like fully in charge, which was more, you know, like someone my age, that was more their speed. So, you know, take it for what it is.
Someone had said, "What's the genre?" I mean, that was when the genre alternative was invented. It was called. Think of what it's called, alternative. Like, what is that even mean?
Yeah, it's just not anything. It's not what you know.
Alternative.
Well, isn't it basically short for you're gonna find something else, right? Because this sucks.
Well, that's it. It's called change the station.
Right.
I mean, for me, like,
man.
I'll say I hate Pearl Jam. I don't get it.
I would agree that it definitely warned the stay out. You know, like 5 albums ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as hate Pearl Jam, but I'm with you. There's like 2 Pearl Jam songs that I can get into.
I'm still waiting to find one that tickles my pickle a little bit, but that's okay. You know, it happens.
Dude, go listen to. I meant to show you Rats. Go listen to Rats. I think you'll like it because I know obviously you have pet rats, but like, it's just a cool friggin' song. It's very like funky. It's on Versus.
Okay.
I feel like if you started with Rats, you would understand Pearl Jam a little bit.
I'll give it a shot. That's mostly why my mic has been muted tonight, is because my rats are just fucking going ham in their cage right now. Like, they're drinking, they're throwing food out. Like, my cat's sleeping on my dog's bed, and they're literally just pelting the cat with rat food. Because
do they hang out at Skips in Buxton or something? What's going on over there?
No, they're the queens of the castle. They run the show. They get their yogi treats, and they like fucking with the cat. They pull the dog's whiskers, and they know they can't get hurt because of it. So, and that's literally all I hear is like the cage is rattling. It's just shaking. And then I look up and they just look at me like, "Hey, Dad."
Sounds like Gangs in New York or something. What the hell?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much over there. It's Gangs of Wyndham right now.
So the one thing I got to point out is we've had a lot of drummers, and now that I'm hearing this stuff about the Counting Crows and the Wallflowers, I'm starting to think a little bit differently about Chris Leighton.
Oh my God.
And I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that you've determined what you're going to do, because that might be the way it's going. But
I'm not playing drums again.
If we're really going to make it a hot take, I think everybody did a really good job being kind of diplomatic about it. And I said I wasn't going to do this, but Foo Fighters.
I knew it.
Oh,
I
God.
called it.
You
I
just don't
called
get it.
Oh, damn.
It's total. It's just garbage.
Oh,
Get out.
no
He's
way.
not
See, like-
kidding either.
Get
He's
out
not
of the
kidding.
That's it.
He's
All
had
right,
that
kick him off the
stamp for-
call. Kick him off the call.
Oh, damn.
I knew that was coming.
It's all good. Everyone's entitled to their opinion,
Even
Even
if
though
it's
it's wrong.
wrong, right?
even
Yeah.
if it's wrong. You know.
I know. How does it feel being wrong, guys?
Here I am, like at my house with all the Foo Fighters albums on vinyl. You're like, Foo
Yeah.
Fighters suck.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Hi, this is Raph from Pink Octopus, Sydney, Australia. You are listening to TrawlCast.
So I know that most of you guys, if not all of you guys, are fans of Sir Thomas Earl Petty, Tom Petty. What is your
Sure.
favorite Tom Petty album?
I grew up, I think, dude, Seth, you just said, what was it, bus songs? What did you say? School bus songs?
Yeah, like school bus songs, because basically, like, the bus driver only played 92 Moose for like 10 or 8 years or something.
That's the shit that I grew up on. Like that, we didn't listen to classic rock in my house. I didn't know, I would go hang out with my friends, and his mom's favorite band was AC/DC. And I'm like, wait, your mom listens to He's like, yeah, that's all we listen to is BLM. And I'm like, what? Like, all I knew was like top 40 on the radio. So like, for me, it's Wildflowers for me, which came out, I think it was 94 or 97.
94, I believe.
94, right. So, I mean, that's like height of grunge. That's when every record I want was like more distortion. I want it to be heavier, faster, louder. I was just trying to find, and then this album comes out, and I was like, what is this? Like, I knew there was something special about it. And then I heard Honeybee, and I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, blew my mind. And then it wasn't until years later, but then seeing Dave Grohl play drums for that on SNL, it was just like sealed the deal. Where I was like, yep, like this dude is. And then it was like college when I had one of my friends, Drew, in college, was just like biggest TP fan, and it was just like that's all we listened to. And I really went back in the catalog and like kind of learned had a proper Tom Petty education, and like now that's all the stuff that I really frequently go back to. But like Wildflowers, just like that's what hooked me in, and I had like went out on my own and like discovered that one. Like, it was so far outside the realm of like what I was listening to and what I was like kind of brought up on. So
That's awesome. That's a great album.
Yeah, so that's you thought you were going to stand out with that, but I mean, is anybody not going to say Wildflowers? Because
Yes.
No, that's what I was gonna say.
For me, it's definitely Full Moon Fever, and the reason being, my parents really they listened to a lot of country growing up, but they listened to Tom Petty, and I remember the first time I ever heard "Running Down a Dream," and it was just like, whoa, because it's not super heavy. It's not, but it, as a kid, it made me want to get in my Power Wheels and just drive, that whole record, Depending on You, I mean, all of it, obviously there's like Free Falling and Won't Back Down, but like just that record, for at least the way that I look at it in their whole catalog, that record was kind of like the point of, okay, we've finally found our sound. We're all clicking. I mean, the licks that Mike Campbell came up with on that record are just like insane. Like, it's just such it's what I call a front to back record. From song one to the end, it's just, there isn't a bad song. And really every record after that, every song is just wow. And if you dig deep and get into like the way that they wrote the records and how everything worked out, like, I mean, they just jammed. Like, there really was never a whole lot of, okay, well, we've got to is that the right note? Like they just played. But for me, definitely Full Moon Fever. Like, oh, that was very much a almost like a musical life change for me. Like it was seeing music in a whole different way, really.
Yeah, so I feel about Wildflowers the way you're talking about Full Moon Fever, like front to backer.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Like that record was one of the first two CDs that I ever owned. The other being REM Monster, and so I've been listening to that since 1994, and over the years I've had, there's 15 tracks on the record. I've probably had like 10 different favorite songs over the years, just depending on where I'm at. Obviously this Honeybee, Wildflowers is just like a perfect song. There's a part like the last minute and a half of It's Good to Be King is just like this, like close your eyes and just kind of like just vibe. And more recently, Crawling Back to You has become maybe my favorite Petty song, period. Not just Wildflower song, but like across the board. I absolutely love that song. And it's a great song. It's devastating when it's not like all of the things you would expect to be like, this is such a sad song and it makes my heart hurt. But like when you just kind of really take a step back and listen to it and just soak it in, it's like, man, that is a brutal song. It's a perfect record front to back. It is a perfect record. There isn't a bad song on it. And like I said, I can kind of pinpoint different parts, different places in my life by which song was my favorite on that record at the time. Like David said, you hear that riff on Honeybee and it's like, yeah, that's when I'm like into heavier stuff. And then when I have a kid, I have a daughter, I'm listening to Wildflowers and I'm like getting tears in my eyes. I'm like, this is such a beautiful song. I love it. There's so many to choose from. So yeah, Wildflowers hands down.
Wow. And those between Full Moon Fever and Wildflowers, both incredible records, both very different records. Jeff Lynne did the production on Full Moon Fever, and then you've got Rick Rubin on Wildflowers, and their production styles are just very different. And I think what they got out of Tom and the band is very different, but they're both incredible records.
No doubt. I mean, and you gotta mention Dan the Torpedoes, no matter what.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Rest in power.
I guess in closing, just another thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to talk shop a little bit and just kind of blow up the outside world a little. And you guys are doing a good thing here, and we're happy to be a part of it.
All right, guys, that was a great episode. Thank you so much to Twin Grizzly for coming on. If you guys want to hear more Twin Grizzly or check them out, you can go to Facebook, look them up, or you can go to twingrizzly.bandcamp.com. They've got music up there. Go give them some love, show them support. And I mean, I can't say any much more, but thank you guys so much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute blast and pleasure to have you all on. It's definitely going to be one of our longer episodes, and I'm okay with that, because it was good times.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you both.
Thanks again,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
So thank you guys all for tuning into TrawlCast this week. We really appreciate you for taking the chance and listening to us. If you like what you hear, we are available on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many, many more. So hit that subscribe button. As soon as a new episode drops, it'll be there, ready and waiting for you to hit play. We're also available on YouTube. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/TrawlPortlandME. That's the YouTube page. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell. When we post something up, you get to see it and you'll get notified. And it's kind of cool. We have fun with that.
If you'd like to send us a voice message, all you got to do is go to anchor.fm/TrawlCast. Hit the button, have some fun with it. We'll throw it in an episode, and, you know, if you have a question or you want us to help you with a relationship problem or figure out your taxes, I don't know, just send us a voice message. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you do have a question, comment, show suggestion, or just want to say hi, all you got to do is cast a line to us at trawlband@gmail.com. It's our email. We check it all the time. For more information about Trawl and all things Trawl related, all you got to do is go to www.trawlband.com. It has everything there, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't had the chance, the EP is now currently out as of this release date for this episode, so go pick up a copy of Bull Moose. We greatly appreciate all the love and support you guys have given to us for the EP. It's mind-blowing how good it's been, and I know I'm speaking for Seth on this. We can't thank you guys and show enough love to you guys for everything you've done for the EP, so thank you so much. Again, thank you guys for listening tonight, and thank you, Twin Grizzly, for coming on. My name's Sean Matthews.
I'm Seth McClellan.
And this has been TrawlCast. We will see you next time.